Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We are here with our second video here in the new Interesting People series. So this idea was essentially Greg and I wanted to bring some really interesting people to you in different fields. Last week we talked technology with Travis Saxton. This week we're talking construction with Tim Schollaart. Tim, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet.
Not sure if I'm very interesting, but
well, we'll see.
I'll have a lot of answers to your questions. So
awesome. So, hey, Greg, I'm going to let you give Tim a little intro here, and then we'll get rocking and rolling.
All right. So here's what we know about Tim at this point. Tim just finished up a term as being vice president out at the Home Builders Association, and that's what kind of led to us connecting with him. Priscilla out there at HBA recommended that Tim would be a good guy to talk to. And so we followed up, and Tim has graciously volunteered to be with us today. Tim is a resident of the Grand Rapids area, grew up in Hudsonville. He has been in the building industry for 20 years. He's a general contractor. He comes out of it naturally. His father was a carpenter, married, 3 sons, 6, 9, and 12. So we can all wish him well in this holiday season here as he deals with the boys and all the excitement of Christmas and everything going on there, plus dealing with all the school shutdowns and everything else we've got going on these days. So, but,
hey, before we jump in with first question here,
yeah, go for it.
I want to invite the audience to ask questions. Fire the questions in here. Tim is here. We have a series of questions we're going to ask Tim. But if you guys have something you want to know, I will be happy to present it to Tim. And Tim, hopefully, I don't throw too many curveballs at you.
Hey, go for it.
All right.
Open.
All right. Sounds good.
Tim, let's get this going here. And I guess first, what I'd like to do is ask, what is it that when you were at the executive VP over there at the Home Builders Association, what's the focus over there? What are they up to?
Sure. Yeah, no, good question. The Home Builders Association, it's, I guess there's a few different facets to it. It's primarily consists of, networking. So relationships between builders and vendors. There's, 171 builder members. I think we're up to about 225 of the associate members, which are kind of suppliers and installers or professionals in the field. So, there's also the primary focus is education as well. So the HBA is a great source for continuing education for license renewals, which is mostly a lot of legal and safety education. Building code changes. There's different series and events on building sciences, when you're looking into how homes are engineered and energy efficiency for our zones. So there's also the role of the HBA is kind of a well-known public source for the public to be able to find builders, remodelers, vendors, suppliers, if they do have needs. And the HBA does a great job, kind of verifying and adherence to different ethical practices with the members. More popular of events is probably Parade of Homes. Mm-hmm. That's also a big event that the HBA does. And that's a wonderful event that us builders get to meet, potential clients and, they can come check out our work, kind of short interview us. They're also able to come check out our vendors' work, right? And check out new product. There's a lot of people that come to the Parade of Homes just to see what's current, what's trending, and see what's new, right? So it's just a good, kind of a good association for networking.
Paul, do you have any follow-ups in that area? I have a couple of follow-ups here.
Why don't you go ahead, though, if you've got a couple right there.
So when I heard the things you were talking about, one of the questions I'm interested in, are there any realtors that are associate members of the Home Builders Association?
I haven't looked in specifically to that, but I would have to assume there are a couple that overlap.
Would you
there,
think that would be a good thing for I would think for myself when I was a young agent that it might have been a great way to meet some people and connect and build some relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. Realtors, are sometimes, I get the sense, hesitant to encourage their buyers or their clients to explore building.
Yep.
Just because it can be an intimidating process. And if they were be able to gain knowledge on the build process and who's available out there, it could be an excellent source to become knowledgeable, to have one more avenue to offer clients and be able to guide them through that process to create some expectations for them.
Yeah.
You know what? So one follow up here, and this is maybe like a curveball, or I'm just going to share an experience from real estate. One reason I think that you have some hesitancy from realtors is that we have a couple of these times where realtors get burned by builders, where all of a sudden we're like, yeah, let's go check out this.
And probably vice versa, Paul.
And vice versa, I'm sure it is. Like all of a sudden, you got a build job going right, and all of a sudden a realtor shows up, and you're like, oh shoot, this person wants commission. And then we show up and we're like, hey, we thought we introduced them to you. We thought we made this connection. And then every once in a while, we run into this situation where builders, we get into a little bit of a fight about commission.
Sure.
Does that ever come up with the HBA?
It isn't discussed, but it is discussed amongst us builders, I guess. And there is, I would say there's some awkward situations that can happen. Mm-hmm. And what I would really recommend is if a realtor is going to refer somebody to the builder, that the realtor take the lead and be that initial contact to initiate a meeting. That really brings clarification to where the client is coming from, because builders want to have good relationships with realtors. It's important, right? And you'll notice even on our website, on our contact us form, one of our questions that we require somebody to fill out is, are you working with a realtor? Mm-hmm. And that is to prevent some of those situations and to make sure an agent receives credit when they should. So,
okay, that's good advice. Solid advice.
Another follow-up to what you said in that first segment there was, you guys are a public resource, and you mentioned remodelers. Well, one of the things that realtors will get asked a lot is, who do you know? Who can you recommend? And
sure.
It's like, well, where do you go to get that information? I mean, other than maybe some personal people that you've worked with, but So tell me about that, how that might look if a realtor called up the HBA and said, hey, I've got some people, they're looking for a remodeler. How would you guys handle that?
Yeah, there is information on the website that has information of who all are members of the HBA and what categories that they service people. There's also, Priscilla at the HBA and others willing to help out and answer questions, and they're available. They want to be a help. They want to be able to make connections for people to give good guidance. So,
Does the home builders then, like in the real estate industry, we've got a code of ethics that comes down from on high up at, the National Association of Realtors, to the State Association of Realtors, to the local association, of which the agents all pay dues to all three of those organizations. Yes. And then there's the code of ethics. And then locally in Grand Rapids, as an example, they have the grievance committee, and then they have the pro standards. And so agents, the public and other agents, can file against their peers. Is there something similar in your industry?
There is a similar process. So obviously, if there's any complaints that do get issued against an HBA member, that would be something that gets presented to the board. And obviously, as the saying goes, there's three sides to every story. So trying to, have the wisdom to understand and interpret and make an accurate, I guess, decision on it, right?
Yeah.
And it is important, and there is some help on a national level with that as well, because it's not just ethics; it's also build quality performance standards.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it is helpful. Like the national, they do have, and this is another benefit to people hiring somebody that's part of the HBA. Is we have those performance guidelines to follow. So there is somebody, that third party to say, well, what is acceptable or not? What is the issue? What is the corrective measure on the issue to properly correct it? And it's just a good way to, bring confidence to a situation that everybody's being treated fairly.
Sure. All righty, Paul, I think we've covered that area.
Yeah. We do have a question.
Okay.
This one comes from Renee Malberg up in Ludington. She says, regarding the labor shortage that a lot of us are experiencing in the building industry right now, it says, how many small business contractor, subcontractor, HBA members have given up and closed their doors in the past 12 months due to lack of skilled labor? Are people just, do you follow the question?
I do. I follow the question. I don't know of any packing up necessarily, but I will say that there is sometimes it is hurting growth, right? So to have a shortage of labor, well, where do I start? I have so many thoughts on this, it's, I don't know. It all comes right. There's been decades of school counselors encouraging people to go to college, right? Hey, you got to go to college if you're going to be successful. And then you got government subsidizing that cost and backing loans. And so there has not been a lot of entry into the trades. And, when you have a shortage, it's tough. And I don't know. There's so many different avenues I could go with this question, but
the way it's affecting us now, so you say you haven't really seen people pack up shop necessarily.
No, I haven't.
It's just delays, just super long construction periods. You just got to roll with the punches right now, or how do you deal with it?
Yeah. It's like sitting down at a buffet and you can only take on so much work, and you have to pick how much. I would say where we need more education also, and where the HBA is trying to come up with programs to help this, is contractors or self-employed tradesmen. We're not great at hiring employees. Okay. And having employees is kind of intimidating. And there's risk and liability, and there's paperwork and so much regulation behind it that there really needs to be more backup and assistance to tradesmen of, hey, here's how to properly, hire an employee. Here's some rules when you have them. Here's some software that you can manage them, and create an environment that we are good at bringing on help down at a lower level and be able to groom someone to be efficient.
Okay.
All right. So that actually went into that second question there, the biggest struggle or challenges, and that probably fits right in there with that question, Paul.
Yeah. So why don't we let Tim answer? What are the biggest challenges and struggles that you see, or you were seeing right now for the building industry?
Yeah. Well, definitely labor availability of trades, right? It limits how much we can do, and you'll notice there's a lot of guys that will say no to remodels, right? And a lot of that has to do with the availability, and remodels can sometimes be a headache if you're in the trades. remodel work, and new construction is easier. So that seems to be where the focus is. But other challenges and struggles, affordable or just availability of build sites. Okay, that's a big issue out there right now. I would say another issue out there is maybe expectations of build cost with potential buyers. And
that one's shocking, right?
It is
for a lot of people.
It is. And, it's, I think used homes will probably have to come up more, to make new homes more attractive to do. But I would say that's another hurdle for a builder, trying to connect and build a decent home for somebody with a medium income. So.
Yeah. Is there, we're looking at it, Tim, and we've talked to the agents about this a few years ago. We used to say, will we ever see the average sales price in Grand Rapids of an existing home go over 200,000? Well, we're now about 264.
Yeah.
And that's in the Grand Rapids. And in other West Michigan areas, it's a little bit lower. But in some areas, it might even be higher over like maybe in Holland or Grand Haven or Spring Lake.
Yeah.
But we are, as I'm looking at this right now, we've got this shortage going on both in new construction, apartments, and existing homes. I mean, we're less than a 1 month supply available for the public to look at. So it's slim pickings, right? And you talk to a builder right now, and if I said to you today, I want to build a house, I've got the money, what are you going to tell me in terms of waiting? How long what would you tell me before you could actually get to me to begin dropping a hole and putting in a foundation?
Probably 5 months. We're about 5 months out on a start date, And naturally, there's a pre-stage to begin that, but we do a pretty good job trying to keep up on start dates. And we also have that discussion ahead of time with people of where we're at. So I will say there's people that just walk and continue and on to the next guy because they want to start sooner.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have the ability to start sooner, but the inventory, it's kind of a bottleneck right now. I feel like there could be a lot of inventory on the market, and with used homes as well. I feel like the velocity and momentum is just kind of suffocated itself. Where if it's not, there's more a lack of new home inventory, and which creates a lack of momentum. And what I mean by that is, there'd be plenty of used homes hitting the market if they knew they could find a place to go when they sell. And it just creates a bottleneck, And
so what do you think? Let me tell you what, as I look at this, people ask the question, how does it change? And so, if I were a builder and I had gone through 2006 through 2011, and I got caught where I had put in a plat and the market crashed, and all of a sudden my $80,000 lots were now worth 35, and I ended up getting caught with 3 or 4 specs out there, which I couldn't sell, and I clearly didn't have enough money to withstand and pay all these payments. The question is, for those builders that were there then, if they learned the lesson back then, the lesson would be, don't get too far out over my skis in 2020 or 2021, because when it changes, we know it can change fast, right?
True. Yeah.
So if I were a developer, and I mean, I got all these buyers, it's like, well, number one, I've got to have the labor to be able to put them up. Number two, I've got to have the financial power if I want to put up, more than one at a crack, right? And if you're building 30 in a year, you obviously have 3 or 4, maybe even 5 going at any one time, right?
12. Yeah.
Well, you have 12 going at one time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're out there then, aren't you?
Yeah. I think I get what you're asking, right? And
Yeah.
how does it change? What corrects the course that we're on? Uh, West Michigan, right now we're in our growth spurt, I feel, and Michigan as a whole is behind on housing, and our average age of home keeps increasing, and we're behind on inventory, and it's going to take decades to catch up. So it's the last crash was specific to housing. So though there may be corrections in the market and things that occur, I don't think it's going to have as dramatic of an impact on housing going forward. And that's
what I think too, Tim. The last housing crash back in 08, from 06 to basically 2011, it was centered completely on housing, and all those builders stopped building, and and all the investors came in, gobbled up the super low cost houses. And I feel like like you said, we're way behind.
Yeah, totally. And as a developer as well, there's other things that are slowing this pace from just happening, right? And one is cost. Nobody wants to stretch out there and put up spec houses that maybe buyers already think are a little too expensive because of build costs. But it's let me tell you, build costs are not going to come down in West Michigan. So on the material side, the Fed just pumped trillions into the economy, dropped interest rates to historic lows. This is going to encourage, inflation to take place on materials. They're going to continue to naturally rise. And anytime a home is built, the product going into that home is all, typically at the peak of inflation, and with labor, we're going to continue to see an increase because there needs to be a vacuum, and we need an increase in rates so that that vacuum becomes stronger to draw in more labor from other sectors. Anyways, so on that side, I do think right now the conditions in West Michigan are safe to take risk when it comes to housing. So and I do think values will continue to rise. We just need all the realtors on Facebook to stop bragging about selling a house in a day. Let it be on the market for a month. Get those values up. Let's I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a realtor, but so.
Well, but we're pretty closely related. It's all interconnected, and so we just want to find a way to play ball nicely with each other, and I think there can be a great connection between us. I think you guys are a great resource in many of the things that we run across in a weekly or monthly basis. You guys could be a great resource. I mean, did somebody say something?
To Tim's point a second ago about letting these houses sit longer. I mean, I think a lot of realtors also would like to let them sit longer because we'd like to meet more buyers. We'd like to create more opportunities for ourselves. We'd like to hold it. Well, we can't hold an open house now, but we like to hold open houses so we can meet buyers. But what happens right now is we're at the brink right here of appraisal value. And like within like the first day, you've already gotten so many offers and so much interest that you're basically smack dab at the, like you've pushed it to the max.
You're right. It's behind.
And so it's like, what's the point of waiting a week? You've got these amazing offers. You got cash offers. You got people waiving inspections, waiving appraisals, waiving everything. And really, the big fear comes into, well, at this point, the realtor and the seller starts thinking like, well, what's the biggest slam dunk here? What's the safest one to take? Because even then the values are so high that it's like 5,000 here or there isn't necessarily the decision. Anyways,
So
it's crazy out there.
Switching gears. Paul.
Understood. Yeah.
Yep. Switching gears here, guys. So one of the things you mentioned earlier was affordable housing. And that is something that is more and more I'm hearing about on a national level. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it, I mean, obviously there's all these things that contribute to pushing up the values, or communities and townships could go the other way and they could say, well, we'll allow you to have a 50-foot lot. We will allow you to have less square feet. We'll allow you to have more density, we'll allow you to build up more. So how are you finding the townships and the communities in terms of the regulations right now? Are they reasonable? Are they fair? Do you feel like, are they working with the builders? Or is it just like, they don't care?
Sure. Yeah. It's, it depends on the municipality, it depends on the township. And it is tough when thinking of affordable housing and what that takes. Not only does it take less regulation, right? But it also takes, when a plat goes in, how many realtors out there are getting frustrated because, hey, a new plat just went in. But guess what? The ranch minimum square footage is 2,000 square feet on the main floor,
Exactly.
And and the tough part is, these with the municipality, it's already a lot of work as a developer to try to put in a plat, right? You got soil conditions versus, utilities of water and sewer availability, if it's clay. Or if it's sand, great, you can continue on without it. But you've got zoning requirements of this is allowed here, this is not allowed here, which gets into densities, density restrictions, road frontage requirements, like you touched base on. Obviously an area that is low density residential that requires 125 feet of road frontage, or rural residential of 200 feet of road frontage. That it's expensive putting in a road and all the utilities and infrastructure. And if there could be a reduction of requirement of road frontage, that can really reduce the cost of lots. Also, common space requirements. The townships have common space requirements, so you lose, of how much of that land is usable to do something with. Construction
you lose
methods.
Out on you lose two lots, and it changes things, right?
Yeah, and out here our township here, they just implemented a new requirement on private roads. And if you put something in where you've got over, I think it's like 20 or 25 units, you got to put in concrete curb and gutter, and it's like, come on, why? That's beyond county road specs, so, but there are,
so they're not, so
what's that?
So they're not backing off, Tim, are they? They're not backing off. They're actually continuing to layer more things on. I'm aware of a guy over in Talmadge that was putting in a road over by Paul. And they had to have there was a guy that had to be on site the entire time. They didn't just come in to check periodically when they were putting in the undergrounds. He had to be there all day long while the equipment was moving. I've never seen that before.
Interesting. Yeah. An engineer or someone with the township.
Engineer on site, 8 hours a day or longer.
Yeah. And I get it, right? They want to, control what their township becomes. I get it. They also want to encourage, sewer to be ran throughout, right?
Right.
So they have their reasonings why, but they don't have a complete understanding of the challenge we're in as far as inventory and housing as a whole for people. So,
well, if they want to have affordable housing for their children and their grandchildren, this is not helping.
No.
And so on the one hand, if you go to a meeting, you're going to hear them talk about, yes, we want affordable housing, but then they impose these regulations. So it feels like
Yes.
I don't know that the builders and the realtors have a seat at the table right now with these communities, and maybe that's our fault that we haven't gotten.
Well,
involved.
I think the community is inherently, selfish to look out for what's in their best interest, and they're already there. They already belong there. They're already in.
Right.
So making more room and making smaller lots.
You've heard the term NIMBY, right?
What's that?
NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Right. So what happened? Yeah. So I think that it's going to be tough to get these townships to start allowing 40-foot lots. Which you look at other areas of the state. You look at east side of the state. You look at Detroit areas. Man, some of these neighborhoods that are very, very nice neighborhoods. These houses are bam, 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 and these are $500,000 houses.
Yeah.
Right.
So what you'll see,
with 10-foot setbacks.
I truly believe you'll start to see more housing come up in a little more rural areas, and it's going to be areas that have good sand, sandy soils, that it can be on-site well and septic, right? Where a developer can come in, clear some trees, put in some pavement and some power and gas, and sell lots, and not have to get into all the storm drain systems, retention areas. They're going to be larger sites and just simply put in. That, I think that's where the trend is going to be going. That's what you'll see popping up more and more.
I think also, Tim, on top of that, the speed of the internet is going to be critical. People can work from wherever today. And so if they can move out into the areas that people haven't moved to in the past, and if they can get a good internet connection. So I think these communities, if they want to see some of that growth, they've got to make sure that they've got, they've invested in that infrastructure of the internet.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Paul, do you have any questions?
Jeff Nichols basically just I think reiterating a little bit of what we spoke about here. He said, he's got lots of clients and lots of great builders, but nothing to build on. So from a builder's perspective, is the number one reason that you're throttled right now, other than actually having enough skilled labor, do you have enough land to build on, or do you just not have enough land either?
There's land, but developing is, you kind of need the stars to align, right? For a plat to work. And, you got soil conditions, you got utility availability, zoning, topography challenges.
There's not a lot of just like one-off lots where you can just.
There's not a lot. Yeah. So, I'll research, 8 pieces of land to find one that makes sense to develop. Okay. Like we've got one over in West Olive, Grand Haven Schools, Haven Woods, that we're just putting in, and that one just clipped right along, and it worked great, right? But it doesn't always go that way. There's a lot of hurdles out there, and there's also those selling their land don't always understand what they have. They may see another parcel go for 20 or 30,000 an acre. Well, hey, that's because there's utilities available, it's soil conditions, there's all these things that come into effect where they'll put their piece up for that, and it's like, well, no, you can't do anything with your parcel, or all you're good is for 5 splits. And so that's the other challenge, but it's I don't know. I guess realtors, if you could encourage more farmers to put their land for sale, it'd be great. But yeah.
Well, hey, all right, Greg, what's next down there?
I think we've covered most of the questions, Paul.
All right. And so just to reiterate, you do not see any slowdown on your end in terms of cost increases, labor costs going up, build costs, everything going up.
Yeah. I mean, everything points to inflation. If there is a correction, it may plateau for a little while, but it's not going to come down. you might have, lumber may come down a little bit or something, but if realtors could, be the voice to help buyers understand that if anybody is considering building, now is actually a great time. I know costs are high, but they're only going to be more, higher in the years to come. And interest rates are phenomenal. And, it's anytime you build, you're always building at the peak of inflation, right?
Yeah. That's always the
it's always like, oh my goodness, it costs how much, right? Mm-hmm. But then as that inflation continues to occur and you build back here, in 5 to 10 years, you can say, you know what, this was a good idea, rather than sitting for 2 years waiting for the right home to come up for sale. Build, get what you want, build a home you're going to be content with for the long run, so you don't feel like you have to do this again in 5 to 10 years. And so.
Well, it reminds me of for us realtors, back when the markets first flipped in 2012, the market started rebounding pretty significantly. And we all had a few clients that said, you know what, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines until this settles down.
Sure.
Well, that was in 2012. It's 2020.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with multiple. Housing prices has doubled since that person made that comment. So I think there is some truth there. It's very interesting.
And buyers also need to understand real estate. It's always a sideways transaction. Okay. When you have the ability, when a home costs high, well, guess what? That means you can sell your existing home high.
Right.
If, homes are cheap, well, guess what? You're selling yours for less. It's
That's
always
right.
a sideways transaction. So don't be afraid of high prices out there, because you can get more for your existing home. But, all right. I'm not an economist, so.
Well, hey, you've shared a lot here. I think that the realtors all feel. We had, I think, around 33 reviewing here a little while ago. So I think they all gotten a lot here. Some good comments saying, they've learned a bit. So, Tim, thank you so much for taking the time, and we really appreciate it. You have anything else to say here, Greg?
I just wanted to say, hey, Tim, thank you very much for taking the time, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yep.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Paul. Hopefully I was helpful to somebody out there, and you guys can take that information and, it's not something that's going to be solved tomorrow, right? But I do think, if we can all talk about these issues and identify some problems and work towards a solution, then, hey, maybe we'll have it fixed in a decade or two, right?
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Tim. I'm going to shut us down here. Thanks, 5-Star Real Estate Agents. We'll see you soon.